So, one of the neatest things I ever did, I learned how to close sales, and this was 3 decades ago. It took me about a year to get good at it, and it took me about 5 years to become great at it. There was a guy in a wheelchair. I'm not going to use his real name, but he worked in one of the novelty collectible item offices that I worked in, and his name was Chris. So, Chris was in a wheelchair. I never asked him how he ended up there, but I could tell you something. He was the epitome of mindset because his position that he was in affected him zero in terms of enjoying his day-to-day, or at least what I perceived to be his enjoyment, because he never let it show that this was slowing him down in any way. And he was one of the top producers. And the reason he was one of the top producers in the office, top two, top three, is because he would have such conviction within his offers. When somebody would call in off an inbound ad, because the internet before that, there were magazine ads, there was direct mail, and that's how we ended up getting inbound phone calls and having inbound conversations. And a lot of people don't realize they're scared of the phone now. They don't want to use it. The phone's going to come back full circle. It's still around, and most of the major money gets closed on the phone. But for the people that think that, they don't need to, and this is for a whole other video, learn how to do that within the next, I would say, less than 10 years, probably in the next 3 to 6 years, it's going to come back around where it's going to be a tool that everyone needs to use, and use a lot, because they're going to realize they don't get the conversions that are needed by just using the videos. Anyways, and that's, again, a whole other video. It's about structure and how you structure your videos. But back to Chris. So he would make it so that his conviction, his emotion, his enthusiasm would come through in any conversation he would have. And he would make sure that the conversation started with a positive, which was, we have this for you, and because we have this for you, it's going to make you feel like this when you get this delivered to you, because you went out and called us because you responded to this. Can you appreciate that? Or does that sound good? Or do you agree? Or is that right? And that little triangle, circle of little bullet points with a, does that make sense? Do you agree? How does that sound? Do you like it? Filled with logic. If a person would say anything other than no, well, those few seconds would end the conversation. Now, the reason why that's so important is because it's called a targeted numbers game. Just because somebody responds to something, most of the time they're not going to take action. But you need to be able to have a good filtration process in the beginning to get rid of the people that are a waste of time. So if someone doesn't agree out of the gate that something is interesting, then there's no way that you're going to get someone who has not agreed that it's interesting, even though they took action, to do anything at all at that point in time. You want to let them go. They're never going to buy. So the way you qualify in the first seconds is very important. And it's no different with a video. It's no different with copywriting. It's no different with a phone call. Everything started with the phone. Everything is about a conversation, communication, and nothing is ever going to be more effective than combining all these modern day tech with the phone itself. But I just wanted to share with you, and to sum up the whole video, somebody who had a lot to be discouraged about, I learned a lot from, and they were not discouraged. They were not deterred. They were tenacious like a bull, regardless of their situation, and they had a very logical approach to how they would present an offer to someone who had responded. Lots of positivity, looking to get an emotional reaction, because all sales are based on an emotional response. If you can get an emotional response out of your prospect with whatever medium you're using, you are then going to succeed. Because if you are able to deliver and articulate, because especially back then, remember, we had to paint a picture. There was no internet. There was nothing like that where you could immediately paint a picture for your prospect by showing them some sort of video of any kind. It strictly relied on the words that you used when you would communicate a message to the receiver on the other end of a phone. Nowadays, you still need to paint a picture, but you also need to be very concise. You cannot fill your content with a bunch of nonsense and expect that you're going to get anywhere. What you say has to make sense. You have to connect the dots for the receiver, and if you can connect the dots for the receiver, you will do very well. If you do not connect the dots, you will not make any money, and you will be miserable in your business. See you on the next one.